And so that would be riba, because she would have to pay all of the money at the same time, because it has to be hand in hand, because it's two different species. Here is the species of gold, and the other species is the pound. They consider two different species, right? So they can be increase and decrease, no problem. However, it has to be hand in hand. And here she did not do it hand in hand, so there is riba here. Okay. And this is the examples that I mentioned in the notes that I want to talk about, that people fall into riba very easily without even thinking. Okay. The modern transactions that we want to talk about, inshallah, are the credit cards. We want to talk about the bank transactions. Then we want to talk about the mortgages and the modern, problems that we have with it, and the insurances. We'll talk insurance. And with that, inshallah, I think we will have covered most of the questions that people have. Most of them, not all, but most, inshallah, of all the questions that people have regarding modern transactions and their hukum in Islam. Okay, cards and the card currency that is going on now. Most probably in the future we will find that this procedure of using cards will be more and more used, right? Why? Because obviously the government wants to keep control, wants to know how everyone is spending their money. And the only way to do that is to use cards, because the cards will have information on it, and they can easily check that and find out what's happening. And incidentally, this was one of the problems that FBI had with Saudi Arabia after the September 11, because they said, okay, Saudi's funding terrorism. So they went to Saudi Arabia and they found the people were only dealing with currencies, really. Half the people didn't even have debit cards. Right? And that's the case. I didn't have debit cards for a long time when I was in Saudi Arabia, until someone took mercy upon me and gave me a free debit card from the bank. Okay? But until then, you have to have a certain amount of cash in your account before they will give you a debit card. So a debit card was not available, so we used to deal in currency all the time. So we'd, for example, get our salaries in currency, in real cash, and we would therefore deal in cash only. So cash is difficult for the FBI to keep in touch with, isn't it? So obviously, so the FBI, one of the things they said is everyone has to be issued with a debit card, right? Every account holder has to be issued with a debit card. Why? So that they can keep in touch with what we do with the money. Okay. Right. So credit cards and debit cards. In the future, this currency of using the cards will become more and more available. So therefore, it is only in our interest to really understand how credit cards and debit cards work. The first thing is that we'll talk about, inshallah, are the different types of cards. The different types of cards that we have, first of all, credit cards. There's two types of that. And then we have the debit cards, which is also two types of that. Obviously, there might be more or less. I'm just giving you a general understanding of what I know from the banks in Australia and the banks over here, that this is what they usually have. Credit cards are two types: charge card and revolving credit card. Charge card basically is that, you have a £500 limit, so you can spend the £500, and once you have spent the £500, once you have used up the £500, then at the end of the month you have to pay back the £500. If you don't pay back the £500, then they're going to slap you with a late fee, and they're also going to punish you by taking your credit card away if you haven't paid for 2 months. If in 2 months you haven't paid, then they'll take your credit card away and they put your name in the blacklist. This is the charge card, charge credit card. Then they have something called revolving credit card, which is that, for example, you have £500 limit, and then you can use £500, and then after that, if you don't pay back within the first month, then it will go on to the next month. However, you will have to pay the late fee, but there's no problem. You don't have to hurry up as long as you're paying the interest, right? As long as you're paying the interest to service the debt, then that is not a problem. This is most of the credit cards are like this. Okay, the second type. The debit cards, there are also two types. You have the direct debit, which is basically it directly debits from your account, and the money goes straight away from your account into the merchant's account that you use the ATM machine at. You guys call it FPOS here? Do you guys call it FPOS? Cash machine. Cash machine, okay. Cash machine, yeah. That's called ATMs, right? So you go to the teller and you get your money out, and so you can get it straight away from your account, or you can, for example, go to the local grocer and you can use your debit card, and the money will go from your account into the merchant's account straight away. Now, obviously, are you guys understanding why we were stressing this fact of when the money comes to the other guy? Because, obviously riba depends on that, isn't it? The delay, the issue of delay is very important in Islam, because if you look at it, this is how people make money. Cash flow in a business is so important. It doesn't matter if you have more money or less, as long as you have the cash in your hand. That is what's really important, isn't it? So, this is why it's very important to realize when the money transfers hands. The second point is debit cards. A debit cards, two types, direct debit, and you have the current account debit cards, in which case you have about 2 or 3 days until the money reaches the merchant. Okay, a little bit of a delay. Most people usually have the direct debit one. Most people usually have the direct debit. Some other large account holders have the current account debit cards. Okay. The fiqh scenario behind credit card transactions, I'm not going to talk about the debit cards, because they're very easy. It's just a transfer of money, isn't it? It happens straight away. It's just like currency. So it's as if it is like a normal, as if you're giving cash. So I'm not even going to deal with it. But the problem is the credit card, and how do we understand the credit card scenario? The way we understand the credit card scenario is that flowchart picture that I've given you here. And this is exactly what happens between a credit institution and the customer and the seller of merchant. Let me just break it down easily so that you understand what of it is halal and what of it is haram. Okay. The credit institution, which is a Visa or the MasterCard, has an agreement with you, the customer, when you sign up with it, that the credit card, that the credit institution will pay the merchant that you buy from, and who has the merchant account with the credit institution, the X amount of money that you buy with. Okay, so this agreement that you do, you sign up, and you put your name to it. This agreement in Islam, the ulama have talked about, ulama have differences regarding whether, what type of agreement it is. But perhaps the most correct is what I mentioned here. That this agreement that you made with the credit card institution is that the credit card institution will be an agent for you, and he will also be a guarantor for you, and also he was promising to loan in your behalf. That was buying currency with cash. I'm sorry, I think it's a typo again. It's a buying currency with checks. Yeah? Buying currency with checks, permissible with a certified check, otherwise impermissible. Because it's the same issue, isn't it? Same issue. Because the issue here is, because sometimes, you give someone this is unfortunately what happens all the time, isn't it? We usually just go to a place and say, listen guys, I'll give you a check, to be cashed in, tomorrow, but I need the money now. Okay? So he gives you 100 pounds and you write the check for 110 pounds, for example. So here, there's two types of riba happening. There's first of all the delay, because you're giving him the money later. He'll only get the money later, yeah, because the check is for tomorrow. And also the delay that is happening here, and there's also the increase. You're giving him increase. Okay. But if it's a certified check or you call it a bank draft, then it will be permissible because it is the same as cash currency. Okay, the late payments and Islamic solution. The first most important thing, the Islamic solution to any late payment, is to give the person who is late in paying more time. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَإِن كَانَ ذُو عُسْرَةٍ فَنَذِرَةٌ إِلَى مَيْسَرَةٍ وَإِن كَانَ ذُو عُسْرَةٍ, meaning if the person has difficulty, usra, in his mashaqqa, he has difficulty in paying it back, فَنَذِرَةٌ, then leave him, then he should be left إِلَى مَيْسَرَةٍ, until he is able to pay. Based on this, a person should only have difficulty in paying if he really genuinely has difficulty. And so when he genuinely has a difficulty, that is the only time that we should give him time to pay. However, if a person doesn't have difficulty in paying, he is ghani, he is rich, for example, then at this point, if a ghani does not pay back his loans, then that is very big dhulm, that is a big sin. This is why Rasulullah said, "Matlul ghani dhulm," meaning the delay of the rich person, and the rich person is every person who has the ability to pay back his loan.